Greetings, everybody. My name is Abby Lass, and welcome to the first ever Controversy Mondays. With me today, I have juniors Aaron Foster and Gethin Binns. The question on the table is, should public figures be held accountable when their rhetoric inspires hate crimes? Aaron Foster, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. My first question about that question would be, what do you mean by held accountable? Because, there are two ways to hold somebody accountable, and I really think, if you're talking about legal measures to hold people accountable for things they say, even public figures, and even if they inspire maybe violent action, I really don't think we should legally punish people for making statements. They do that in Germany. If you have a Nazi symbol, unless you're making a movie or doing some kind of artwork, it's illegal, and I highly disagree with that. So if you mean legally holding somebody accountable for something that they say, even if it is hateful, I would say no. People should not be held legally accountable. If you're talking about, we should condemn people who say hateful things, totally. We can condemn whoever we want. It's a free country. People have the right to say something hateful, but we also have the right to condemn them for it. Yeah. That's what I would say.
Yeah, and I would agree. Hello, I'm Gethin Binns, by the way, in case anybody's wondering. Hi, Aaron. Basically, I very much agree with Aaron's point. We should try and make a distinction between government action, that would be legal action, that is legally enforceable and, generally speaking, made by court order, and public response, which would be completely fair and protected under the law. And I don't think anybody's making any, there's no controversy around should the public be able to respond to hateful speech. They can, of course they can. Jesus Lord. But the question should, of course, be, in the case of, for example, Donald Trump, should Donald Trump be held accountable for his words should they lead to violent action? And the answer to that has to be yes. There should be some kind of legal response in place in this country to stop bigoted speech, causing damage to people's livelihoods and indeed democratic rights. Because while there may not be any actual violence going on right now, you can bet butter, for all I care, that there is going to be some Muslim person out there who feels as though their rights to express themselves fully is being restricted because of his popularity and because of his prevalence as, frankly, a pop culture figure. The amount of general attention that he gets is disgraceful.
What would you suggest the legal action would be?
We have to sanction him, and we have to sanction his hate speech.
Sanction in what way? Should we put him in jail?
No, we have to limit his ability to make his speech heard. We have to put
then you're interfering with the democratic process.
Of course.
Right? And that's the problem. That's what I have a problem with. We can't actually interfere with the democratic process because that. And you know what, you can say this is a logical fallacy, but that's a slippery slope to, okay, well, we think this guy is a communist, so we're going to interfere with his ability to run for office. And then you lose that sense of populism that I think makes, our democracy great.
How about we consider an alternative? How about we consider that we should make our country based on facts and logic as opposed to emotion? Okay. And Donald Trump is the figure of emotion. Populism, a word you just brought up, is basically emotion. There has not been a single populist movement in history that has been predicated upon intellectualism and fact and reason.
I think that could be debated.
Name one.
Well, you could say that perhaps some of, FDR was a populist in many ways.
But he was entirely based on emotion. His entire argument was predicated on action.
Well, that's the thing. Once he got into office, people said
which he just fundamentally ignored.
He did a lot more than balancing the budget.
He did, but he didn't promise any of that. He just promised that he would do something. He didn't promise what he would actually do. He was feeding off of people's frustrations and emotion towards
And logically, he was a very successful president. So in retrospect, you look back at it from a logical lens, and you see that this populist, who ran as a populist, who won that way,
but that's beside
got into office and
so
did
Aaron,
great things.
So in this situation, so you don't want to limit any public figures' ability to reach their audience, and I think that's a very fair principle. But then if this person, either a singular time or multiple times, has said things that can be directly linked to acts of violence against a specific people or a group of people, what is the public supposed to do if they, because of course it's kind of impossible to stop hate crimes by just posting on Twitter.
Well, it's the public's job, but it's also the media's job to report it as it is, which is bigotry. You know, if somebody's running, and this is not just Donald Trump. People have run for office for years, mildly inciting some kind of, hateful, not nearly as hateful as Donald Trump, but sort of implying that kind of racism to get those same votes. That's been happening for years, and the media won't report on it. And the media
does report on it. That's exactly what.
Well, but that's the thing. The government can't just go in and say, we think you're being, mildly racist, so you're not allowed to run for president.
Yes, they can.
That's where I disagree with you. We cannot have an overly controlled democracy. If we do, that's how you get corruption.
How is that how we get corruption?
Well, that's how you get a more, a system that's, I shouldn't say corruption, it's elitist. It's based on, government elites controlling who gets to run for president. And that can't happen.
But we're controlling the idea...
Who is controlling? It's not just we. You can't just say we.
The judicial branch. The judicial branch says, we are placing an injunction. Somebody sues Donald Trump's campaign and says, you are promoting a message that we find to be infringing on our right to free expression. And then the judicial branch, the courts, then send an injunction to Donald Trump's campaign saying, you may not say these things.
Just in the case of Donald Trump, what has he done?
Donald Trump as a John Doe.
But right, you're saying that specifically you're saying that Donald Trump should have some kind of legal measure taken against him for free speech. And I don't like Donald Trump as much as the next guy, but he has not actually infringed yet on people's free speech.
Yes, he has. His speech has consistently, the entire famous Mexicans quote, I mean, that basically portrays an entire racial bloc as being rapists, or at least a significant portion of them.
Infringe on somebody's free speech? It's hateful. It doesn't...
Because that then propagates the notion that these people are actually rapists.
Still not about speech.
Etc., etc. And as a result, they do not deserve the same human decency and respect that one is given to expect in a democratic
You're right,
discourse.
It's hateful, but what does it have to do with free speech?
No, because then those people who are now being accused of being racist, etc., are not then more likely to be taken seriously by people who take Trump seriously. And as a result of which, you see their rights to free expression being infringed.
Okay, so you have a different, I think, idea of what free expression is than myself. I think free expression is a legal idea.
It is.
I don't think it has to do with social interactions.
I should be able to propagate whatever political idea I want to.
Right.
And this man is deliberately attempting to curtail, if I'm a Mexican American, he is deliberately trying, or indeed a Muslim American, God forbid, he is indeed trying to curtail my freedom of expression by saying that I am not as human as, say, a white American is. My opinions do not hold as much weight as a result of my ethnicity.
To me, that sounds hateful, but he's not actually limiting that person's ability to say, no, you're wrong.
Yes, he is.
That hasn't happened yet.
In terms
if
of
he was
society,
president, you could say that was possible, but then there are other measures to stop him from being able to do that.
Well, here, I guess the question at the core here, because we're going to have to wrap up soon, is, is it my fault if I say something that inspires you to do something? Because on the one hand, you're acting of your own free will, but on the other hand, I have planted the idea in your mind. So can I be held accountable for that?
Well, what do you mean by planted the idea in my mind? If you have control over me,
well.
if you have personal control over me.
But that's not
no,
right.
If you're a criminal
I'm a
mastermind,
movie star and I've said something and you're like, hey,
no.
that's a good idea.
No. Because then the guy who shot Ronald Reagan,
mm-hmm.
he shot Ronald Reagan because he was crazy, and Jodie Foster didn't like Ronald Reagan.
That's just like...
Now, I know it's the extreme, but we have to take the extreme situation into account here. You can't be held accountable for things that I do. Even if you're going around, well, Do we have do we have laws in America that say you can't, ask for violence?
You can't
say
you can't
publicly we should kill all these people. Those would be terroristic threats.
Now
that's one
danger,
thing.
Of course. If your speech creates if there's immediate danger that could be associated with your speech, then in that case you'd be legally reprehensible.
Right.
If I said kill that woman,
exactly,
and you killed that woman,
but if
I'm responsible.
Abby, if you were just saying however hateful it is, I don't like Mexicans, and somebody were to hurt a Mexican person because of that, that would not be your fault, even though you were a hateful person. Unless you specifically told that person, hey, go kill that guy.
She would be let's say it's a different Abby, not Abby Lass. A different Abby.
Okay, yeah.
Says,
Abby, you're a great person.
Abby
I love you, Abby.
Says XXXYY. I'm justifying why you should be violent towards Mexican Americans, or indeed Mexicans as in general. She would be providing a rationale for violence. And that, in my view, is unacceptable, as, in my view, that then propagates a culture of hate towards Mexican Americans. And in my view, that is unacceptable because that kind of culture, that kind of pervasive culture, limits those Mexican Americans' right to freedom of expression. And that, I think, is the crew of the conversation.
It might be unacceptable, but it's too dangerous to legally limit that, because then the question is, well, what is inciting some kind of violence?
Oh, it's very simple. She's providing, again, alternate universe Abby, is providing a rationale and a reason why I would want to carry out such an act.
Well,
say I'm an incredibly impressionable person with an IQ of like 90, for example. I'm not, of course. I'm a brilliant human being who has high SAT scores, etc. But the point is that I would be given of the opinion that her rationale, however faulty, would be correct. And as a result, I would, especially if she said they should just be dead and leave our country.
Okay, that's a different thing. That's a terroristic threat.
That's not a terroristic threat. That's not a threat. She's not saying.
They should
saying,
be dead.
I will then take it upon myself.
And to be fair, Donald Trump has not said like Mexicans should be dead. Like, a lot of people are taking that from what he's saying.
Country. He's trying to revive the whatever the force.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's bad. It's hateful.
He's deliberately trying to push them out of the country. He's trying to
listen. It's fascist in a lot of ways, but he has not said, "Hey, go out and kill these people." And if he did that, then I think we'd have a different situation, because that would be a direct, immediate threat. Just like Abby saying this guy should be dead, and then you killing that person.
Also, Abby again.
Let's say somebody else.
Let's not get ourselves.
I'm sorry,
defamation.
This is going on the internet.
Yeah.
But all right, I think that might be all the time we have today. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for taking part. Let us know what you think in the poll attached. We'll hope to see you next week.